My name's Bill Myers. I'm here with Chris Hardy. We work at a company called Promethient, which is here in Traverse City. We're very big into the manufacturing world and building stuff. And so kind of in that vein, I'll get started with, and this is new from this morning, Alex. We adapted a little bit. So just a little quiz for our students is, what do you suppose all these things have in common? The world's largest solar farm, the world's highest weather station on Mount Everest, numerical control, and their Saturn V rocket and the first moon landing. Well, since you can't respond, but I can respond for you. The answer is that Traverse City, all of those things were made in Traverse City. So Parsons Manufacturing built the primary fuel lines for the Apollo program in the 1960s. Parsons also invented numerical control here in Traverse City in the late 1940s. R.M. Young is one of the world's largest manufacturers of meteorological instruments that measure weather. And if you think about climate change, well, you have to measure it to understand if something's changing or not. And they've been in business since the early 1960s, building weather instrumentation. And then Cone Drive is a company here in town, and they make specialized gearboxes that actually steer those mirrors in a solar farm out west. And so Traverse City has a really strong legacy of manufacturing, which a lot of people aren't aware of. So we like to talk about that and really let people know we've been in manufacturing for a long time, and it's more than just cherries and apples in Traverse City. So Promethient is kind of a part of that world. So we are a manufacturer. We're a relatively new company, and the problem that we seek to solve as a company is that of thermal comfort. So if you think about all the different environments where you either get too hot or too cold, that's where we get involved. So if you think about the workplace or even schools where you can get too hot or too cold quite easily, it's not uncommon in an office environment for someone to have a fan and the person next to them has a space heater because they're just not comfortable with the thermostat. But also, if you've ever traveled on an airplane, sometimes it's very difficult to get comfortable from a temperature perspective because you don't have any control over the temperature of the cabin. In power sports, so if you're riding an ATV or riding a boat in the summertime or a motorcycle, you're outdoors, you really can't control your temperature very well. And the same is true of folks in the military and first responders that wear body armor. You can get too hot in that equipment real easily. And then finally, kind of a related problem is that of electric vehicles, because if you think about it, electric vehicles have to heat or cool all that air with electricity. They don't have any waste heat from an internal combustion engine. So as it happens is that most electric vehicles will lose half or more of their range because of the fact that you're heating and cooling all the air in the passenger compartment. So the technology that we've developed and the technology that we've patented actually addresses all these problems. The markets that we work in are transportation, furniture, and garments. So if you think about construction equipment, tractors, ATVs, boats, jets, even garments and furniture and stadium seats, those are all applications for our technology. And so our heating and cooling system that we install in seats went into production last year with Polaris. Polaris has two product lines. One is Indian and one is the Slingshot, where we've been launched. And there's actually a post from a Facebook users group last August where someone bought an Indian motorcycle and his rear end got too cold even though it was 102 degrees outside. And so this is great feedback from the market. So we're helping people to stay comfortable in environments where they previously couldn't get comfortable, especially from a cooling perspective. Same is true of the Slingshot, where it's a great feature that people value. You're exposed in a vehicle. You don't have a cabin where you can air condition anything or heat it. So you're exposed to the elements. But this allows you to ride in Arizona in the summertime in a vehicle that's open to the elements and yet have cooling available to you that helps you stay more comfortable. So the way that our technology works is that we use something called a thermoelectric device, which is a special kind of semiconductor that can pump heat. So if you think of a water pump and how it pumps water, well, you could think about this in the same way, except it actually pumps heat. And we attach that heat pump to something called graphene. And graphene is a flexible strip of material. It's actually just carbon, and it allows heat energy to flow through it easily. But since it's flexible, it could conform to the shape of the human body. So it's easy for us to build it into things like seats and garments and furniture. So the picture on the bottom shows you a cross section of a typical seat where you can see our heating and cooling engine is beneath the foam. And there's blue graphene in this picture that extends up through the foam of the seat. And it runs just beneath the seat surface where the person is sitting. And since that graphene is close to your body, it can conduct heat out of your body to cool you, or it can conduct heat back into your body to heat you. So it's one system that can do both, and it can be outdoors. You can spill on it, doesn't matter. It's weather friendly, and it can certainly stand lots of different kinds of environments. So that's what we do. And we build it here in Traverse City. This is what the product looks like that we sell. And so on the picture on the right, there's two X-shaped assemblies, which are what we call a heating and cooling engine. And then each one has a blower, and then there's also an electronic control unit with some software on it that we had designed and programmed to control our system. So one of those would go, say, into the seat cushion, and the other one would go into the seat back if you're talking about a bucket seat. Or if you're talking about a motorcycle seat with two occupants, there's one in the front for the driver, and there's one of those in the back for the passenger. But it actually chills or heats the surface that you're sitting on to keep you more comfortable. And as I mentioned, we've got patents issued here in the United States and as well as in Europe to protect the technology. So what do we look for as far as skill sets at Promethient? Well, we certainly look for soft skills. We look for people who are cheerful, who are humble, who are willing to learn, who are curious, and they work well with others. They're team players, they collaborate, they listen well, and they can work together well. And we will look for people that have a great work ethic, people that show up early for work, people that don't leave until the job's done, who really are a great member of the team, who help us pull in the same direction, but also people that can independently learn new skills and knowledge, because school doesn't teach you everything. So it's really important to be curious and just to continue learning your whole life. And so that's a part of what we look for in our employees too. We also look for people that can solve problems, who have at least a basic knowledge of mathematics. We look for people that can assemble and have good hands-on skills using tools and so on. But we also employ engineers, so mechanical, electrical, and manufacturing engineers who can design and test and develop our systems. We look for people who have sales and marketing background, and we also have people on board who have basic business skills pertaining to accounting and budgeting and so on. So those are some of the things that we look for. And that's a picture of a part of our shop with one of the motorcycles that we have here that has our seat on it. But those are the slides that I had assembled, and I'm certainly happy to address any questions you might have.
So for our students who are here listening, Bill is happy to answer any sort of question you have, whether it may be about the steps that you can take from high school to then possibly go into a career like this, or maybe, Bill, within Promethient, what would you say is a big skill for someone who is looking more for the manufacturing and engineering side?
Well, if you're thinking about an engineering pathway, it's a wonderful field to go into. There's a lot of great schools in Michigan that teach engineering, either in the Lower Peninsula, University of Michigan, Michigan State University. I went to Michigan Tech up in the UP. They're all great schools, so there's lots of good options here in the state of Michigan. And it really depends on your interests, but whether it be engineering or any other college degree, what you're looking for is a good foundation. You're looking for a foundation to build a career on, but also a foundation potentially to go on and learn more things, maybe get another degree or maybe get a graduate degree, just to kind of continue to build your skills and always be aware of what it takes for you to be valuable to your employer, because life changes, knowledge changes, the state of the art changes. So being able to adapt to that and learn over the course of your lifetime to make sure you stay valuable is a very important thing.
Great. Any of our students have anything they want to contribute? Again, Bill is very competent and can answer a variety of questions for you. But here's one that is a little more specific just to you, Bill. For this job, for your job at Promethient, what was the training that really kind of set you apart?
Well, that's a good question. lots of different things in my career. I was fortunate enough to, get an engineering degree, and I worked at Chrysler in the automotive industry for a few years before I started to go to smaller companies. I worked in consulting for a period of time. So I worked as an engineering consultant, but I also got into sales and marketing. I sold and marketed engineering software for a few years. I also operated my own company and for quite a number of years. I did marketing work. So at the end of the day, I just was able to get a lot of different kinds of experiences and business experiences under my belt that allowed me to do what I do today. But I think that it's just important to be open to new opportunities and be cognizant of the fact that you might have to change jobs. When I was young, people went to work at Ford or GM or Chrysler and they worked there for 30 years and they retired. And those days are kind of over. And most likely, like me, a lot of you will also have different employers. And sometimes that's what you need to do in order to kind of broaden your skills and kind of move up the ladder, as it were. So it's important to be open to that and take responsibility for your own career and your own skill sets and what makes you valuable to your own employer or other employers.
Definitely. That is great advice. And we do have a few questions in the chat, Bill. The first one is, does Promethient only work with heating and cooling?
Yes, we do. So we don't make the seats themselves, but we make the system that goes inside the seat in order to heat or cool the surface. And we find that because of what we're doing is kind of new, people aren't used to a cooled seat in many of these applications. So we work directly with what are called OEMs, or original equipment manufacturers. And so examples of companies like that would be like a Ford or John Deere or Kubota or Gulfstream Aviation. Those are all OEMs. But they know their customers the best. And then once they like our technology, they would go to their seat suppliers and say, we want Promethient's technology in the seat. Go ahead and work with them to put it in. So even though at the end of the day, our customers are the seat companies that build the seats, it really takes their customers to kind of pull us through, if that makes sense. So that's how we go to market, is by showing this new technology, this new capability to the OEMs themselves.
Great. And the second question I see is, are minors employed here?
Great question. Yes, we've, since 2017, we've had over 15 interns that have worked here. Most of them are either from the Manufacturing Technology Academy here in Traverse City, which is obviously serving many school districts. We've got an MTA student right now who is from Glen Lake, and we've had other Glen Lake students here. But we've had students come in from Kalkaska and Mansalona and, of course, Traverse City. So a lot of different high school students can come here for experiences. This summer, we'll have some internships that are unpaid for Symatech students, but come in for 2 weeks and they get to work alongside our team to help do various things for a 2-week period of time. But some of our internships are paid as well. And some of our interns actually come back and work more for us in the future too. But we try to hire local people as much as possible. And we also hired NMC graduates. One of our technicians graduated from the electronics technology program at NMC. He's amazing, and he does a lot of the fabrication work in terms of when we first get a seat in the door, he'll help us figure out how to put it in. And then he actually does the work of cutting the seat up, cutting the foam, putting it in our system, doing all the necessary engineering work to kind of fit it in there. And then he does the testing work for us as well. So, but we also have mechanical engineers from Michigan State University, University of Michigan, and Michigan Tech that work here too.
Great. So that is a lot of opportunities at of varying levels, which is great. And we do have another question that is, how many hours do employees usually work?
Great question. We have most of our employees have a 4-day work week. And so what we shoot for is a 10-hour day, Monday through Thursday. But then they just don't come in on Friday and they have a 3-day weekend. We don't all do that. I work a good chunk of the day on Friday. But I think most importantly, when we have deadlines to meet, we kind of lose track of the calendar. People come in and they do the job whenever it's necessary. And having employees that are willing and happy to do that is really important for us. because it makes the whole experience for everybody that much better. And it just makes you feel like you're a team, which we are.